Welcome to Charred Oak, the business, bourbon, and becoming podcast where bold ideas meet smooth pours. Hosted by entrepreneurs Matt Gerard and Shane Theiss. This is your needed pour of inspiration, insight, and a splash of something strong. Each episode, Matt and Shane dive deep into the world of business, growth, and entrepreneurship, sharing real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that fuel success. Whether you're building your empire or just getting started, this is your space to learn, grow, and become. And of course, no episode is complete without the Bourbon of the Week, a curated tasting and review that pairs perfectly with ambition. So, pour a glass, pull up a seat, and let's build something great, one sip at a time.
Welcome back to Charred Oak. I'll be your host, Matt Gerard with Downrange Firearms.
And I'm, again, your co-host, Shane Theiss from 926 Crafted Apparel.
I cry at night. I want you to know that.
Nice to see you wear the clean jeans tonight.
I've been working all day, all right? I'm trying to become a pod people. Leave me alone, all right? And our guest, Brenden, go ahead and, if you don't mind doing your intro, and we'll kind of run from there.
Sure thing, yeah. So my name is Brenden Coletti. I am the owner of Coletti Aviation, aircraft maintenance facility. So we work on pretty much anything from small planes to your corporate jets.
Nice.
A little bit of everything. Basically, we say if it flies, we can work on it. We've got some professionals in helicopters. We're one of the only shops around that do helicopter maintenance.
Nice.
Specifically, Robinsons. We're pretty well done with those. The other one's Rotaway. It's an experimental helicopter. We only know those because my dad has one. You know,
It's a good reason.
yeah. But as far as GA goes, we work on Cessnas, Beechcrafts, Pipers, twin engines, single engines, everything. If you go on like the twin engine Cessna forums, we're pretty well known on there. We work on a ton of twin engine Cessnas, Cessna 340s, 421s, 414s, those such. And we're starting to get into the turboprops a little bit more. So we've got a guy that we hired. He's King Air guy. Went to King Air School. He's got a lot of knowledge in that. And he's been jumping at the bit to work on more of those, so we've been getting more of those through the door.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So then, I know you're local to our area, but where's your actual shop located at then?
Right, so we're at Lewis Airport in Romeoville. It's quite a drive from here. It's 80 miles each way that we got to commute. Ooh. So one of these days we'll get our airplane over here and just fly back and forth. It'll be a little bit easier for us.
That's the kind of commute we're talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We thought about it, and we tested it out. But even going to the airport, pre-flight in the airplane, getting the fuel, jumping in, flying to the airport, it's about the same time as the hour commute.
Yeah. No traffic that way, though.
No traffic, that's true. And
Better scenery.
You got to deal with the winters, though. So
yeah.
Those cold starts sometimes could be a pain in the ass.
I suppose you still have a car just in case the situation
Exactly
doesn't go very far. So how long have you guys been... How long has Coletti Aviation been in existence then?
So we started last year. We opened up our doors September of last year.
Wow, that's a lot of business for a year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've gone through 324 airplanes to date.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of airplanes, busy airport, busy shop. But, we had a big following when we opened up shop. So I've been in this business for quite a while now, and we have quite loyal customers, and at this point I consider most of them friends. And when they found out we were opening up our shop and my crew was coming with me, they followed us there. So we got a lot of new customers, but we also had a lot of loyal customers that followed us.
Okay, nice. So then how did you get started in the aviation side, especially the service side?
Well, that's kind of a right turn as to what my original plan was. When I was really young, I knew I wanted to fly, right? Airplanes always fascinates most kids. And I wanted to pursue that. So when I was 16, on my 16th birthday, my parents took me to the airport. I did an intro flight with Rotors and Wings, which no longer is in existence down in Kankakee. But that 16th birthday flight kind of changed everything for me. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I started flying when I was 16, got my license when I was 17. I felt pretty good at it, and a lot of people thought so as well, and pursued on and kept flying. but I couldn't afford to do it. So I really owe a huge thanks to Rotors and Wings for helping me out with that.
Yeah.
See, I started out scrubbing toilets, cleaning floors, working the front desk at that company, which was a aircraft rental place. And in exchange, he gave me flight time. So I never would have been able to fly, get my license, and afford to do what I did without their help. Big thank you to them. And from there, I knew that I wanted to fly professionally, and I had to figure out a way to pay for it because Mom and Dad were going to pay for it, and flying time is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that lesson the last 2 years.
Yeah. So I joined the military. Right out of high school, I joined the Air Force and went in. I was a guidance and control technician, so I worked avionics for C-130s.
Yeah.
Down in Peoria. Did that for 8 years. And while I was doing that, I went to school to try to get the rest of my flying done. But you got to have a bachelor's degree. You know, the original idea was go fly for the military, and you have to have a bachelor's degree to do that.
Yeah.
So I had to get an associate's degree with it, and I was like, well, maybe I'll do the A&P program and get the associate's degree, right? If I figured growing up, we were kind of cheap asses, and we always work on everything in order for it to be something cool. You know, we buy something cheap and build into some cool hot rod or something because we just couldn't afford anything badass like that. So I was like, well, this route, I could be able to build my own airplane and fly it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I went to A&P school up in Rock Valley, their program at RBC, which is right there on the airport. And
How was their program?
fantastic.
That really good.
Fantastic program. I was the first class at their new location. Incredible. I've been to multiple different schools just to see what kind of programs they have, try to get some kids in to work for us. And I must say they have an incredible program. Incredible.
That's awesome.
But going from there, I had to work while I was at school because the military covered most of it, but I still needed living money. So I worked for, at the time it was Emory Air on Rockford Airfield. And I did their apprenticeship program until I got my licenses and became a mechanic with them. And I did that for 2.5 years. Because during my school there, I got deployed overseas to Kuwait, which put like a 6-month hold on school. So then finally got back, went back to school, and going to school, being in the military, and having hands-on experience for those 2 years working as an apprentice kind of tailored me into a very valuable asset to most maintenance shops. So I could pretty much go and talk to anybody and get a job, especially because mechanics are in high demand.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I found Luminaire, which was a maintenance facility over in Aurora Airport, and Mike Lumen took me in under his wing, and they gave me a job there. Incredible family-owned company. They established it back in the 60s. Incredible people. I owe a lot to those guys. And just some of the nicest people in the world. And when I first talked to them, it was one of those work environments where you felt like you were family. You didn't feel like a number. You felt like you belonged there. And I said, I'll take the job. I decided to work there. And I worked there for about a year or two before the director of maintenance that was there left for a different opportunity. And at the time, I was going to school for my bachelor's in aviation management. And I figured, well, hell, I'm going to school for it. Why not take the job, right? And they didn't really have anybody else to take the place. So I threw my hat in the ring, and they said, yeah, go for it. Let's see what you could do. And I ran that shop for almost 8 years. And I developed friends and family and customers that, I cherish and will live a lifetime with. And it kind of took me off the path of being a pilot and led me down the path of maintenance, which was never even really on my radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm glad it did. It brought me to where I'm at today, and I really couldn't be happier.
I got to make a commentary because this is something I really like about the first part of your story. In order to get hours in and really do what you want to do, you realize you needed to pay your dues, and you're cleaning toilets and freaking whatever, taking out the trash, whatever nasty job that they might have because they needed somebody to do it, just in order to get the hours in because it's the only way you were going to be able to to do that, because call me crazy. And you mentioned trying to recruit younger guys too in some of these programs. I'm curious to see if you see this, especially in the aviation world. Getting kids to volunteer or pay their dues or think that they deserve anything other than an executive salary when they start with no skills, no knowledge, no anything, is pretty darn rare. So to get somebody that's like, hey, I'll do whatever you need. I will barter, I will, spit shine your shoes, whatever it'll do to get plane time, get seat time.
Right.
I don't see a lot of kids doing that these days. It's incredibly, incredibly rare.
Very rare. It was very rare to find motivation and passion.
Mm-hmm.
In the world of aviation, it's a cool world. People become very passionate in it.
Oh, yeah.
So you do see that, sometimes in this industry, but it is very far and in between, and it's kind of a rare thing you don't necessarily see as often as you wish you would.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a very young crew. We've got a mixer of older gentlemen and younger kids that are coming in. We've got an internship with Lewis University, so we have 3 interns that come in from there, and we brought in a couple other kids before they even had all their licenses and got their licenses while they're working with us, and they're incredible guys. Wouldn't trade them for the world. They are quick learners, they're motivated, and they've got common sense. One of these things I'm finding these days with some of this younger generation is, common sense isn't very common, and we live in a world of convenience.
Yep.
And it's harder to find people that have that work ethic because they grew up in a convenient world, whereas we didn't have the technology advancements as everybody else does these days, and we had to find ways to occupy our time that didn't involve a screen and use our brain and find something to motivate us to go do something, which you don't really see these days. And growing up in the country, everybody was like that. Your work ethic was second to none because you had to work.
Yep.
Everybody that went to school with were farmers, and everybody worked their asses off before school and after school. But you just don't see it much anymore. I've got a lot of friends that have inherited farms, from their parents and their grandparents, and they sell the farms. They rather sell off the legacy than get the money than to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I think that's got a big shift in what we're seeing today with the kind of the mental motivation and characteristics of this newer generation.
Yeah, there's no independence, because like when I was in my early 20s, I wrenched on my own cars. I changed my own oil. I changed the brakes. I put a really horrific looking spoiler on it because I thought I was a racer at the time. I don't think you can even work on most of the cars that are out there anymore.
Oh, it's tough, man. It's tough.
That almost requires a special kind of knowledge and degree to kind of do on that stuff.
Well, it does, and my whole family, we grew up drag racing. We're big gearheads, and I think that's why this maintenance kind of career path fell so easily to me, is because I've been wrenching on planes before I could, or on cars before I could walk. So mechanically, all this kind of came naturally. And we've got a lot of race cars, my whole family does. And my brother is getting pretty good with the tuning, because everything nowadays is electronic tuning. I can't tell you how to do it. Absolutely not. I could put the parts on the car, but when it comes to that tuning, it's a whole new science. I've got a appointment scheduled next week to get one of my cars tuned, because I supercharged. I put a different pulley on it. It's running like a dog. You'd expect to run a lot better, but it desperately needs a tune, and I don't even know where to start with that stuff.
Maybe I'll call your brother. I mentioned it to you when we through text that I'm building a half-scale P40 Warhawk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to have EFI through a Yamaha 1000cc motor. I don't know anything about tuning 1000cc motors for an aviation for an aviation scenario.
Right.
I know there's a lot out there in the forums and stuff, but that's one of those things. It's like I'm going to find out, which is also different than the current generation. None of them are like, I don't know how to do that. Cool. Break something. You'll figure it out.
Well, that is one of the things I see a lot is the lack of knowledge and the lack of knowledge of how to find that knowledge. So people may not know the answer to the question, but a lot of times I don't feel like they're willing to look for it.
Sure.
And even if they may be, they're not asking the questions on where they can find it. And unless you give them the tools to do it, they're never going to have the initiative to go out and do it. And that's something I found with some of these younger kids that we bring in, is that we really have to show them firsthand, step by step, on things that I would have considered common sense. But nowadays, if you don't do it, there's going to be mistakes.
Yep.
And in our business, you can't have mistakes. Mistakes kill people. You know, we've got to be very efficient. We've got quality control. We've got to second check everything that we do. If you're not sure on something, you've got to ask questions.
Yep.
Otherwise, people die because you can't pull over in the sky to fix a problem.
Well, you can, just only once.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I tell everybody. Is like you always land. You know, whether you walk away from it or not is going to be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Landing is mandatory. Taking off is optional.
Exactly. Yep.
So how many? So that's your full-time gig then. So how many staffers do you have on your payroll?
So I'm the owner.
Mm-hmm.
We have 9 people that work for me.
Wow.
That is
It's-
super impressive for a year.
Yeah. So we have 9 people that work for me, and we're looking to acquire new locations, new assets. So we're in contract right now with another outfit that we're trying to buy out, and then that's going to bring us to another location. So we'll be at by the end of this year, we should be at 2 airports.
Oh, very
And
cool.
we should, with this acquisition, we should be able to probably maybe 5 times the scale of revenue that we're bringing in right now.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
I figured you'd be busy at Lewis Airport. Holy.
Oh, very much so. We are, but you know,
different ball game.
the one thing I've always had in the back of my mind, and I've had the privilege of having such nice people that are on my side and supporting me, to have the wisdom that they have. I never would have been able to build this. And one of the things they told me is that if you're working in your business, you cannot work on your business.
Yep.
So by me eliminating myself from everyday management within the business and staffing it accordingly to where it's now self-sufficient and I don't have to be there, I can now focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got multiple kind of offers going out there. We're trying to acquire multiple things so that way our presence increases and our capabilities, which is the biggest thing. If we could increase our capabilities, we could work on more, we could provide more for the customer, so that way they don't have to fly to different places. We could be the one-stop shop for everything. And starting out just a year ago to where we are today is incredible. But in another year or two, I think we're going to be off the scales. I mean, we will be able to, right now we're not a 145 repair station. We're working on it, but the FAA, man, it's 3 years. It's 3 years to get on that,
Yep.
to get that phone call to say, hey, let's talk about getting your repair station license.
Oh wow.
So one of the places we're looking at acquiring, they have that already. And with that in hand, we can now be more desirable to manufacturers such as Textron and Piper and Mooney, and we could get service center agreements with them, and we could finally be more appealing to the jet centers and start working on the bigger stuff, and it all stems from there. So I think once we get that ticket, it should grow very quickly.
So, okay, that's awesome to hear. We've discussed that with a couple of people since we've started this. It's good to hear more of that. And if anybody's listening or watching that actually is working on their business development, make note of that, because we've talked about it at least 2 other times with 2 other
Yeah.
people that I can think of offhand.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about it in general.
Yep.
Because I've got 4 on my payroll. I've got a tiny shop, though, but it's the same thing. I try to spend as little time there. One, because they're better at it than I am. I'll be totally honest with you. Working the register, my attention is always on back end. So when I'm doing back end, I'm not very attentive with the front end. Thankfully, we got through our ATF inspection. It's nothing like an FAA inspection, but it still sucked. There was still, colonoscopy, a big guy with a telescope, and 3 weeks of going through paperwork line by line.
Wow,
by
that
line.
much.
Yeah, that was fun. Every 4473 we've done over the last 12 months, they looked at every single signature, picture, photo, the whole shtick.
Wow.
Went fine. No issues with it, thankfully. Just little minor stuff. And the couple issues that we'd already known about, taken care of. And they're like, oh, cool. As long as you're actively addressing it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not supposed to report this to you, am I? No.
That's the biggest thing, even with the FAA when they do their inspection. If they notice anything, they'll send you a list of items that you have to comply with and fix. But they give you some time to make it right.
Yeah.
They're not going to shut you down right away unless it's completely drastic operation and you're about to kill people.
Right.
But the FAA, a lot of people get scared of them, but I have some of the best friends in the FAA, and they're just the nicest people, and a lot of these guys are just old mechanics, that want to go and get a pension.
Yeah.
When I left where I used to work before I started this, I had 2 guys leave or a man and woman leave, and they went to the FAA, and they're mechanics. So when these people come in, and a lot of people get afraid because of the authority that they have, but they're average guys, average people, nicest people I've ever met, and they're willing to help you out. If you don't know the answer to something, all you gotta do is call them.
Yeah,
They'll help you out.
it's kind of how it was with my ATF agent when he came in and did my inspection.
Yeah, a lot of people, because you hear horror stories, but at the end of the day, I mean,
They come from people doing shady things, though.
exactly.
Right.
A lot of those horror
Right.
stories are. We always looked at you and went, I don't know.
Right.
And shockingly, you got dinged on the stuff that we all thought you were going to get dinged on.
Right.
Shocker.
You strapped Piper wings on a Learjet. What did you expect to happen?
Man, I tell you, I've
Oh.
seen so many airplanes come through the shops, and I've been working on this stuff for over a decade, and the stuff you see,
Yeah.
the stuff you see that gets signed off.
Yeah.
You got these Joe Schmoes go to your hangar and pencil whip your books, say you're good to go, don't even look at the airplane, and then it comes to our shop, and we pride ourselves on being very thorough, and our guys, they take it seriously. Every single one of our guys treat these airplanes like their families in them.
Mm-hmm.
And the day you don't, it's the day you make a mistake. But our guys, man, I could never be where I'm at without the team that I have because of that. And we built ourselves a reputation because of it. And we've got guys that come to our shop, and we've had to condemn planes in the past because the maintenance is so atrocious that the aircraft is not salvageable.
Yeah.
The corrosion's so bad that the plane is literally about to fall apart in flight.
That's what they did to that one out on Scare. North Scare. There was that old 172 that sat back in the field.
Yeah.
That was like, I heard that was so just gone from sitting out in the field for 10 years that they just cut it apart and loaded it on a truck. And
Turn it to soda cans. That's
Yep.
what they do. They recycle it.
yep.
Oh, wow.
But that's what happens. It's an aluminum airplane, and it's funny.
They don't like moisture.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of people don't know this about the Midwest, but it's humid,
Mm-hmm.
and these airplanes, they're uncoated. Everything inside of them's uncoated.
Right.
So this aluminum oxidizes and corrodes
Yep.
pretty rapidly. Once it starts, man, it goes fast. And if you don't catch it right away and you fix it and you try to let that stuff go, it's just going to cost you.
Yeah.
The common saying in aviation is if you don't pay for it now, you'll pay for it later. And
Yep.
it's 100% true. You got these guys have been pencil whipping these airplanes for 5 years, the $500 every year, and they're like, shit, I only paid $2,500 for the annual for the past 5 years. They bring it to us, and the flat rate just to do the inspections like $4,000, and people freak out, and they're like, well, I haven't paid this in the past 5 years. Yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
we look into this thing, the amount of negligence that's been on these airplanes is sad. It makes you worry for the poor people and the families that are flying in things, especially people that are flying with these people that don't know better.
Right.
They don't know what to look for, and
Yeah.
they trust this pilot and the owner that this thing has been maintained to a level of confidence that it's safe for family. And some of the stuff I've seen, man, it's scary. I've seen rather recently an airplane, and this customer probably never come back to us because his bill was so expensive, but it reflected the poor maintenance that was done on it. And his wing bolts we had to replace, and they put his wing bolts in upside down and backwards. So there's 4 wing bolts, and they're different sizes for a reason, right? And they were opposites. They're diagonal from each other, and they're all held on by about 2 threads.
Oh my goodness.
That's about it. Yeah, and they cranked the living hell out of them to keep them tight. But, man, we broke them loose, and were able to spin it 1, 2, nuts came right off. And those things have not been replaced in 15 years. And they're supposed to be done every 5 years. And not in 15 years.
It's
And
that $500 annual that they wanted.
exactly.
Shout out to
Exactly.
Blue Loctite.
Dude, honestly, right? Good grief.
I might spring for some rock set at that point. I mean,
Oh, it's incredible, and the guy's he owned it the whole time, and he was that close to a wing coming off.
So what are you seeing with, the media has been putting a lot of attention on plane crashes, and it seems like over the last couple of months it's been focused more on smaller planes, the 4-seaters and whatnot.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in your industry as far as attention? Is it like increased scrutiny on you guys, or?
No, not at all.
No.
You see, when the media runs out of things to talk about, they amplify those things.
Yeah.
And once
Oh,
you
yeah.
got the one, and then you see another one, it just gets amplified. But no, unfortunately, aircraft crashes are pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's really 4 of the biggest insurance agencies that insure these aircraft, and each one they have just under 2,000 claims a year. So it's 2,000, not necessarily crashes, but incidences that occur with these aircraft. But you don't see all that
Right.
on the media, So it doesn't really. We don't see any more scrutiny on our maintenance or our procedures and processes. Really, what it comes down to, though, is why. Why do
Yeah.
these things happen? In aviation, we have these things called airworthiness directives, ADs for short, that you must comply with. And those all stem from incidences, from
Mhm.
accidents. And it all, I would say a majority of these things are pilot error. But when it's not, and it's a catastrophic, manufacturing flaw,
Mm-hmm.
we know about it. They let us know, and then it downs the whole fleet. You got this much time to comply with this inspection or this replacement because there's been a manufacturing flaw, or this has been, maintained improperly, and now we have to go through and replace it. That's pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
Every year you see those things coming out. They come out all the time, and it's our job to do our due diligence to make sure when that aircraft comes in and when it leaves that all those things are complied with.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's legal and safe for flight. If you don't comply with some of those things, which unfortunately we see a lot of, these aircraft come through the door and AD's never been complied with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's technically unairworthy. You're
Right.
not even supposed to be flying this, and it's I wouldn't say it's very common, but it happens often enough, at least maybe once a month, that we'll get a plane in the door that we haven't seen before, and there's an AD from 30 years ago that everybody just assumed was dealt with and never was. Never was. I mean, is it going to kill him? Probably not. It's probably something minor. But, at the end of the day, paperwork is probably 75% of the job of a mechanic in
Mhm.
aviation. Working on these airplanes isn't hard. You just got to make sure that you're on top of your game and it gets inspected by multiple people. The paperwork is tough because that goes under a lot of scrutiny.
Sure.
If anything happens, that's what the lawyers are going to be looking at.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing, man. So I would say with these aircraft crashes that you're seeing these days, especially I think it was right at the beginning of the inauguration with Trump is when they started having all that on the news. Really, I think it was just kind of a segue to get the attention off of the presidential election into other things.
Sure.
What are you seeing? Because this is something I don't think most people realize about, especially modern GA, because it's gotten the price of getting involved in GA in like the 80s or 60s compared to what it is today is bonkers.
Oh, it's tough, man.
So what are you seeing for like ages of aircraft? Because I think if you talked about the average like normal person owning their own aircraft, what kind of like year of manufacture I think would surprise the hell out of most people.
Yeah. So, like you said, dude, it's getting so expensive, and they're pushing the middle class out of it's what's happening. They're pricing them right out. It's getting ungodly expensive to own an aircraft. I'll tell you, we had a Cessna 195 in the shop that just left last week that was from the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
We have airplanes that come in from the 30s. I've worked on airplanes that are one of a kind, the last one left in existence from the 20s, back when they just had, basically a lawnmower engine on them. So people are flying them, man. I would say
annual that.
yeah, there's not a lot to go off of. Yeah, not a lot of information, but the most common you will probably see is the 70s. There was a huge influx of flying in the 70s. Manufacturing was just going off the charts to meet with the demand, and then come the 80s, it kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
And it was pretty affordable. A lot of people think airplanes were ungodly expensive, and it didn't used to be that way.
Mm-mm.
Before COVID, an aircraft would cost less than a new car. I mean, you could buy something that you could fly 4 people in, you could take your family with for $20,000.
Yeah.
And it was a good airplane, good running airplane for $20,000.
Geez, I haven't seen that since I started looking.
Yep. So that's what you're seeing these days. What happened was COVID came. COVID came, nobody could fly, and everybody who did fly had to deal with the airlines BS where, You know, you had all these stipulations you had to go through. So people started flying privately more. And then people who didn't work or had time off said, hell, screw it. I've always wanted to be a pilot. Why not take lessons? So we saw a huge influx in interest in aviation come COVID. And because of that, the demand was so high, they were able to price these airplanes the way that they did. And it's probably 4 or 5 times more expensive now than it was 5 years ago. And just, it's all because of the demand was out there. And unfortunately, you're not going to see it go down because they're making money.
Yep.
You know, they're able to keep these prices the way they are. I would say so was that 2020, right? 2020, we were less than $90 an hour. And we are now $135.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 5 years.
No, I think you see a lot of pilots, and it seems like it's the younger pilots. There's a few that I follow on like YouTube that, you know, they do like the cross country, like fly from Arizona to, you know, Oshkosh and stuff, you know. So they're cool. It's cool to follow the story, you know, because they're landing in some really cool airports. But they're all flying older planes with high dollar avionics on them, you know, which is really cool to watch. But it's like, man, you've put more in the avionics in that plane than that plane was brand new.
Well, that's a majority of the airplane. So what people say nowadays is that you either buy the engine or you buy the avionics and you get the airframe for free, because that's where all the value is in these aircraft these days. 172, brand new off the line, is no different than one that was built in the 70s. It's the exact same airframe. You're just paying more now for the engine and the avionics.
They're not even fuel injected nowadays still, are they?
They are.
They are
So
finally?
nowadays, you're seeing a lot more that are fuel injected. But, you know, it's old technology, man. It's try and true. It's redundant systems. These carbureted airplanes, they're horizontally opposed, air-cooled engines. Same you'd see in a Volkswagen Bug or a Beetle back in the 60s and 70s. And it's the exact same technology that's been around since the 40s, as you see in brand new airplanes today. The only difference is the fuel injection, and even then, all it is a fuel pump.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a fuel pump, and you know, instead of a carburetor, you got a servo. It goes with direct port injection instead of, you know, going through the carburetor and the intake. So that's really it. I mean, the brand new airplanes now, they got the FADEC systems, which you're going to pay for though.
Yeah.
You know, they're at that point you're talking hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s for an airplane that's got FADEC. But what I see happening now is the experimental world, I think, is really going to explode, because corporations are buying out all these mom and pop shops that make it affordable to maintain your aircraft, and what's going to happen is they're going to price out the middle class.
Yeah.
When that happens, the experimental world is going to go crazy, because that's the only thing they're going to be able to afford.
Heck, even some of these kit planes are, what's an entry level vans?
Yeah, the RVs are going crazy.
The RVs are bonkers.
They're everywhere. You see them all over the place now. You know, you can buy them done. I know guys that's all they do. They just build them in their hangar. They build one, sell it, move on to the next kit. That's all they do.
I just saw somebody's they're remaking old like Piper Cubs. Piper Cubs and Champs.
Yeah, there's places that they'll get, you know, they'll manufacture new parts, right? So they'll build it from plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But it's
pretty
the exact
neat.
same airplane that was there from the 40s and 50s.
Yep.
You know, it was pretty crazy. There's a good friend of mine who just got this beautifully refurbished Cub. It looks just like it did when it rolled off the factory floor. And then he's in the second hand, he's got an Aerostar, you know, one of the fastest airplanes, twin-engine piston airplanes there are. So he goes super fast, or he's got this, you know, this classic that just goes super slow and low. You
The
know?
light sport special.
Exactly. He's on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I did my most recent discovery flight. I did one, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, before COVID, so it's probably 10 years ago now. Didn't go anywhere with it, but I did another discovery flight up here with a guy with an old Champ. I thought he was going to blow us up. I mean, he's smoking a cigarette as he's checking the fuel levels. I'm like, I'm going to die, and this is not how I expect it to go. But, yeah, it's an old, like, I don't think a lot of normal people understand, because they hear aviation and they think 747.
Right.
Nice and modern, and even a lot of the jets, too. Like, they don't understand how the construction works in a lot of these aircraft.
Yeah.
Like, small GA aircraft, there is not much to them.
No.
Not at all.
It is it was funny when you said turning it into a pop can. I'm like, it already kind of is.
If it's even aluminum.
Yeah, like I said, that Champ is fabric wings, and
Yep.
I mean, it's a bonkers world.
Yeah, I mean, some of the like clipped wing decathlons and stuff, they're just so cool to watch. You know, it's like, how does that thing even fly? You know, because the wing is shorter than the fuselage, and you know, it's like, holy cow! But
we've
cool.
seen some of these decathlons with the wood wings, and it's all nailed together.
Yeah,
And they'll do aerobatics with them. I mean, you can, they're built for it, but they'll come in for inspection. There's so many nails that are pulled out of these things. You can tell the wood's just been warped and stretched, and they're overstressing these things. And yeah, man, it's pretty wild to be doing tricks like that in a wooden aircraft.
All right, so let's talk a little about newer, more modern or recently new manufactured. What is, from what you've seen, the most reachable modern aircraft for somebody to get into?
Somebody to get into? Man, that's tough. That's tough.
Is there anything affordable right now?
It depends on what class you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're talking middle class, if you're just your everyday, 9-to-5 worker, and you want to go out and you want to buy an airplane, you're probably not going to get anything that's new. The newest thing you'll probably be able to afford is probably something in the 70s. It's very expensive market. If you want to buy something new, you're looking at $1 million, $1.5 million for really a base model something.
Mm-hmm.
Really the Cirrus is getting pretty popular. Cirrus is
it.
nice. It's got the FADEC controls, very easy airplane to fly. They got the joystick, which is always fun. Air conditioning, digital air conditioning. It's probably the closest thing to a modern day car as airplanes go.
Yeah.
But they come with a $2 million price tag.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine that has one.
Yeah.
They're bonkers.
they're-
the SR-22s are gorgeous
Yeah.
planes. I'm always following those. The Vision Jet, God forbid, but that's a
Yeah,
different
right.
class of. That's a whole different class of aviation.
Yeah, but it's a single pilot.
Yeah.
I've got friends that have been looking at them. If you own a twin engine Cessna, the cost of operation isn't much different.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about your month to month, what it costs to own a twin engine Cessna versus the Vision Jet, it's not much different. Yeah, and that's what you're seeing a lot now. You got these guys. It's become so expensive now to own and fly and maintain these twin engine airplanes, these bigger airplanes you can fit your family in, that they're looking at these older jets because it's about the same price to buy and maintain an older jet as it is for one of these twin engine Cessnas. It's crazy.
These small jets are cool. I remember when Honda first came to the States, we were living in North Carolina, and I was working for Tyco. Like, oh, you got to go to this new stop and go meet the people and, get them set up. Like, all right, so we go down at the airport, and it's ended up being the engine shop for Honda.
Yeah.
Pure white room, white walls. Everybody's in lab coats. Everybody's, it's super nice. And then in Greensboro is where the fuselage factory was, and it was the same way. You could lick the floor, and your floor would leave your tongue would leave the dirt mark, not the floor. And it was that clean. But it was so cool to watch that from the very early stages of we've just built the building and now we're moving parts in, to a month or two later seeing the first, cocoon, if you will, of a fuselage in the factory, and then being down at the engine, watching them do a test fire on the first engine that they did in the States. It was like, that was cool. And then when the Vision Jet came out, it's kind of the same thing. It's these smaller jets and stuff. But I don't know. There was one out at the airport a while back, and I saw it driving by, but I didn't, obviously you can't get close to it, but I'm like, man, it'd be nice. It'd be nice.
I know the guys over at Zeckelman's, he's got two private executive jets that he brings into that airport every now and again. From what I told, he stopped bringing him to Rochelle, though, because it's just easier to operate out of DeKalb's.
No,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah. Much different.
Oh, substantially different.
Wide open over there, too. Yeah.
I wish they'd give us like full-length taxiways and a second runway at Rochelle. That would be wonderful.
Well, they had plans. I think they still have the plans to build that place up, but they just don't want to budget for it. But really, they don't have the demand.
Right.
Right.
You think about it, who in Rochelle is going to be filling that airport up? There's not enough people out here to give the demand to require more hangars and bigger runway and this and that.
You've got too many other smaller airports around that, for
Directly
the
compete.
person that would go out there.
Well, it's different for aircraft owners because a 80-mile hike isn't that bad.
Right.
It could be 40 minutes, if that, sometimes.
Right.
So people don't mind flying to an airport that is nicer, has got better amenities, it's well equipped
Yep.
to get stuff done, or to even just fly and take off from. So us being where we're at, that's why I'm in Romeoville.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy, dude. So Romeoville's been around forever, since I think the 20s that they had the school there. And there's really never been a maintenance outfit there. We're the first ones.
That is
Wow,
very
that's
surprising.
crazy.
There's 134 airplanes on that field. And we're the only maintenance shop there. The only one that's ever been. Hopefully the only one that'll be there, moving forward too. So we'll see. I mean, we plan to grow to meet that demand, but there's a lot of big things coming to that airport. They've got a lot of big plans. They've got the budgets in place to make it happen. And when that does happen, that place is going to explode. And I'm glad that we're there now. Honestly, dude, the only reason, well, I want to say the only reason, probably one of the biggest reasons why we're able to do as well as we're doing right now is because of the timing. Right now, we're just at the perfect time to fill this void that you're seeing in aviation. There's this huge generational gap in aviation between the new generation and the retiring generation.
Yeah.
There's nobody really in between. Nobody. It's very hard to find somebody to take over an aviation business when that guy's ready to retire. And that's what you're seeing. A lot of places are closing down, or a lot of people are selling out, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move in and help these people that are retiring and getting out of their business, give them an offer so that way they could have their legacy continue with us and pick up the slack where it's needed.
And turn it into a retirement investment, not just well, I guess we're closing our doors. And
The biggest thing, Matt, is the knowledge and the experience.
Mm-hmm.
The wisdom these guys carry, you cannot teach.
No, you can't.
These guys, man, they've seen everything. They've been working on planes since they had no brakes until these jets are here now sometimes. And the stuff that these guys seen, and the little tricks and tips that they know, you can't teach these guys. So you keep them on. One thing I've been harping on is anytime you're working with somebody that's been in the business for a long time, learn as much as you can from these guys. As much as you can, because it'll take you a lifetime to learn what they know.
Yeah.
You know?
And the knowledge that they've created is, like you said, with the aging fleet, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Modern people that want to buy an aircraft, if you want to on a normal middle class salary, you're buying a 172 maybe from
Yeah.
1970.
Honestly, you can't buy those because the schools are all
snap
using them
them up.
So the value on those things is over $100,000 for these piles of crap. Nobody's buying them. Everybody's buying Pipers now.
Yeah.
Pipers have become very, very popular. I see Piper Cherokees probably more than anything else. They've become very popular.
I'll be honest, I like bottom wing better anyway.
Having a high wing is nice because you get the view.
Yeah.
You can look down, you can see everything. When you're in a low wing, you don't really get that same kind of view. You gotta kind of pitch it, throw power in order to get that field of view that you get out of those planes.
A lot more turning. If you're not banking, you're not seeing it.
That and, when the engine dies, you've got a little more grace. These low wings they drop out of the sky. Those high wings, they glide so well.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, those low wings, man, they're a rock. You pull power back, they just drop. That's why when you land in a low wing, most of the time you got to land with power on. Versus when you're coming in a high wing, you usually pull power back. You kind of just glide your way in.
Yeah.
Know?
Learned something new. Well, I've learned a lot of new things today, actually. But like you were saying with those old timers, the tech's not changing. There's still a ton of old school steam gauge, carbureted.
Yeah. So, we have maintenance manuals to work on these airplanes. They're the exact same manuals as when they came out the factory floor.
Yeah.
There's some revisions here and there, but all of the information is the same because the plane is all the same.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and customize an airplane like you can a car because there's so many regulations and rules and guidelines you got to follow, and not to mention the legal liability of producing the parts and the kits to do this stuff. It's just not seen in aviation.
Yeah.
That's why it's so expensive, because the liability falls on whoever either manufactured it or installed it. And in a day and age where everybody's so fast to sue everybody, you're not finding it anywhere. Now what you're seeing is obsolete parts. You're seeing airplanes that can't fly because there's no parts being made for them, and you can't do anything about it because nobody wants to take on that liability.
Yeah, and you don't see customization because exactly like what you just said, if it's not a factory-built, factory-designed option, you don't. It's not like toying with a car where, hey, I want different brakes, I want to turbocharge this, I want to do X, Y, and Z. It is very, very difficult to modify anything because, like you said, once the inspection happens, they go, you can't. This isn't legal.
Yeah, and even in the experimental world, right? You can put on whatever you want in the experimental world, but at the end of the day, you can't pull over and fine tune it.
Right.
When it comes to testing these things, you can only do so much on the ground. You don't know how it's going to react when it's in the air.
Right.
So, it's scary, it's dangerous, and that's why a lot of people you don't see doing it. Or if they are doing it, they usually don't walk away to tell about it.
So what are your thoughts with the new Mosaic rules? Because they put a bunch of new stuff, including some maintenance stuff. I know it's a lot more on the experimental side than it is on the GA side or the certified side. But what's your take on the new Mosaic rules? If you've dug into it much at this point.
I haven't dug into it much, mainly because from what I've been reading, it really doesn't affect us much. Because what we do is 100% policy and procedure in accordance with what the manufacturer guidelines are.
Yeah.
So whatever they spit out is what we got to follow. So at the end of the day, whatever new rules or new regulations that come out or new guidelines, we are notified about it, and we just got to, make it work.
Yeah. That's interesting stuff. So then, so getting more into the business side of it, I can nerd out on aircraft stuff all day long, and we probably will at some point in the future. So I know you said you were pretty much running that shop in Aurora. It was Aurora, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For basically 8 years. So is that where you learned a lot of your the business skills, the running the accounting, all that, or is that one of those?
Yeah.
I don't know, so I'm just going to pay people to do that part for me.
So when I was there, it was a small shop. When I started there, man, we had 3 airplanes in the hangar, and by the time I left there, the place was overflowing with airplanes. We had so much business that you couldn't even close the door. There's planes sticking out. And what happened was the company got bought out. People came in, weren't qualified, weren't knowledgeable in the field, and were starting to run into the ground. This business is 100% reputation.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where the mechanic literally trusts, or the owner literally trusts the mechanic with their life and their family's life and everybody else that's in the airplane. So when they're comfortable with you, they'll take their airplane to you every single time, right? What was happening was there was corners being cut and, people not doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, things getting forgotten, and it started ruining our reputation, just destroying it, and I couldn't have it. So it kind of forced me out of there. I never really thought about opening up my own shop. It was always one of those things in the back of your mind. You're like, yeah, that'd be cool one day. But what ended up happening, it just became a necessity. It got to a point where I just didn't want to get out of bed and go to work anymore. And my fiance, she gave me the strength and encouraged me to make this happen. And one day I woke up and I said, let's go look at some airports. So as far as the skills that I got out of that business, running that shop, it gave me management skills. It gave me skills on how to be personable with customers and employees, how to lead by example, not necessarily telling people what to do. And it gave me the crazy supportive crew that I have today. I mean, these guys will follow me to the gates of hell. And without their support, without everybody's support that got me to where I'm at, I probably wouldn't have made it. If I would have started this without anybody giving me any kind of advice, I never would be able to be here a year later. I came into this thing, I didn't know much about accounting, much about business really at all. And I would say when we were about 4 months in, a friend of mine, he just got done working with these business consultants, and he told them that, I just opened up my new business. I didn't know much, and, young kid, this and that. So they came over, and, man, I tell you what, they put the fear of God in me. They sat me down in a room, and I told these guys, I'm listening, I don't have the kind of budget to afford this stuff, and, I feel like we're doing okay. And they asked me a million questions that I did not know the answer to. Asking me terms, asking me this and that, and I just didn't know. Because I never went to school for business. Mm-hmm. I've never been in that world in my life. And these guys, man, I tell you what, I know a lot of people have different takes on business consultants, but these guys were incredible. They found a way to make it to where I could afford them. Money wasn't even an issue with this. We were able to budget it, and they just sat there with me every single day and just taught me business. I got probably a 4-year bachelor's degree crammed in my head over the course of 2 months. They showed me what I was doing wrong, what I need to do right, how to stop from making any mistakes, and then just gave me the tools I need to keep on keeping on, But without them, man, probably wouldn't have made it. But even just getting the business started, I've got probably the best customer base out there for starting a business. Because everybody that comes to my shop to have their airplanes worked on, they're all business guys.
Sure.
They've been in this game their whole lives. They know the do's, they know the don'ts, they know who's to contact for this, who's to contact for that. And I've got my good friend Andy Parker, who's my business consultant. He gave me the do's and don'ts on how to get this thing started, helped me build the business plan, helped me take it to banks and individual investors, try to get the financing to build this thing. And I got approval for a couple banks, but really it just came down to this beautiful couple, Greg and Sandy, who I now look at as my second parents. They just believed in us. He's retired. She's retired, and they just got some money that they have in their retirement. And they gave us $130,000 to build this company. Wow. $130,000 to build this company that we have today, and we owe everything to them because, starting out in the aviation business, you ain't gonna get much backing from a bank.
No,
it's impossible. To get any kind of financing for a new business from a bank, good luck. I had the inside contacts for 3 different banks, couldn't get the financing just because it's such a huge risk with aviation. It's 100% reputation based.
Yeah.
And trying to explain that to the bank, it's too high of risk. Nobody's going to get the financing for it. So without, Greg and Sandy's help getting into this thing, we never would have been able to fund it. My good friend Andy, my business consultant, he gave me a contact for this this gentleman, John, who he owns a branding company, so he builds brands and logos and slogans and this and that for new companies, and he built our logo and got that all done for me pro bono, just like my business consultant, all
Nice.
the work pro bono.
Oh, awesome.
And without their support, never would have been able to have this badass symbol and even the business plan to get to where we're at. And then just recently, one of our customers, my good friend now, Tom Zum, he's been in business his entire life. Him and 2 of his friends, they built just this incredible real estate, I guess, I don't want to say monopoly, but just this empire of real estate, man. These guys are top notch. And the context that they have over 45 years of being in business, he shared with me. And, man, I've been able to talk to people and get the attention of people I never would have been able to get the attention from if I was just me. So having all these friends and having all these wisdom and this knowledge of all these people that have been in business and telling me what to do, what not to do, what to avoid. If you're seeing this happening, this is what you need to do. That guidance, man, made us who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's incredible. It's something you can't buy, And it's just the world and the community of aviation, it's so small, so supportive that these guys are willing to do this stuff in the limited free time they have for us just because they're nice people.
Yeah.
They're humble, friendly people.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, man, I don't know where I'd be.
And correct me if you haven't seen this, but I think you have too. I've noticed in the business community, especially because it's such, and not just in the aviation side, just businesses in general, the more experienced, the more successful people are actually very, very, very generous with knowledge, information, recommendations, direction. I also have noticed a lot with a lot of small businesses, they don't. I'm pretty open with how I do things with my business. Anybody who wants to ask, I pretty much talk to. And
Right.
There's some things I do right, and I know there's a lot I do wrong because I don't have a business background. I actually hired a business consultant, which put a bad taste in my mouth because I won't mention who they are, but was an awful experience.
Oh, yeah.
Super expensive, and I got not a nickel from it.
Yeah.
All the
You got an
Same.
opinion.
It's hit and miss,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
All the suggestions they gave me, they were like, "Oh, hey, you need to be doing this." I'm like, "Been doing that since I opened my doors, a year and a half ago." "Well, you need to be doing this." I'm doing that too. Like, cool. Best thing they did was, "Hey, you have QuickBooks, you should use it, but here's another financial report you should plug numbers into." I'm like, "Why is this different than any of the QuickBook reports that I can run
No
like
kidding.
minute to minute?" None of the useful advice that was coming from it, and it cost a fortune to find them.
Oh, it did. Yeah, I mean, these guys, they charge a pretty penny per hour.
Yep.
But
Oh yeah.
with my experience, they said, you need to be doing this. You're not. This is what you're doing. This is what you need to change.
Yep.
Here are the tools to make that happen.
Yep.
That was priceless, dude. That was so helpful. And what I think you see in the business community is it's a small percentage of people.
Very.
Super small percentage of people. You can't just go down the street and talk to your average Joe about what it is like to own a business and what you are thinking about doing and you're not sure and you're kind of wanting some guidance and some tips on it. Normal person can't talk to you about that. So when you meet another businessman, they're always willing to help you and they've always been very humble with me because they enjoy talking about it because now they have someone to talk to about it. Having that conversation with somebody that knows what they're talking about is no longer brain rot.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody that just doesn't get it, and you're like, why am I wasting my time?
It's like they say it. Don't ever take advice from somebody you would want to train patients with. Not to knock like normal everyday people, but I created a business so I didn't have to work for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You always answer to the customer. So anybody who thinks that you own a business so you don't have to answer anybody's way off their rocker. They don't know anything about how the world works.
Truth.
That being said, I don't want to work for somebody else. If I want growth, I work harder. I open to a new market. I go to school. I find a consultant that's actually worth the time and money. Any of those things. You work for a business. You only go up if there's room for you to go up. You don't
Right.
get to just,
Right.
hey, I want a promotion today. Nope. If I want a promotion to my business, I expand, I diversify, I start something different, I get into real estate, I buy a 100-year-old bank. And that's kind of like the neighborhood on that one. But I've noticed, especially with a lot of the small businesses in the area, the ones that closed up shop, they're busy talking about how great they're doing. They never want to talk about a lot of the back end. And I definitely noticed the biggest stigma that nobody wants to talk about is nobody wants to talk about money.
People get weird with money.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
And I get it from an employee standpoint that a lot of employers don't want you talking about money when you're an employee because, hey, you're actually a better employee, so I'm paying you more. But the guy down the streets, down the hall, he's a sack of potatoes, but not bad enough to fire. He's never going to make as much as you. I don't want you talking about money because it puts me I don't want to have to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
There's issues with that too, but that's a different conversation. But it chases into I'm starting my first time small town, small business, and if you're not willing to talk money, because it's okay. You could be running a $1 million business. I could be running a $150,000 a year business. You can't compare because they're different. It's just a different animal. But you have to be willing to, if you're serious about actually like using the networking with other small businesses for growth, say there's no way you can fund a consultant at the phase you're in your business. You should be talking and networking with other business owners and be willing to have those conversations and bring up the cash thing. Because if you can't talk about the money, the rest of it doesn't matter. Oh, what are you doing for marketing? What are you doing for this? If you can't turn around and go, what return are you seeing? The conversation's pointless. There's no, money. All money is it's a tool. Money is not the end-all, be-all. Money is the tool to measure what your company is doing in a minute-to-minute circumstance.
I'm glad you said that. You see, what I think you're getting at, right, and what you see with a lot of people are, when it comes to money and people get weird about it, it's because they're not looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
Like you said, what I've learned owning a business is that it just becomes numbers. It's a matter of moving this money here to get this number here to get this number over here.
Yep.
You're exchanging numbers. The value to it is no longer something that I hold near and dear to my life, saying I need to have this anymore, like it did as an employee. Because now there's so many other responsibilities for this. That's no longer just I must have this to survive. It's how do I make this number so all these other numbers will work.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen, like you said, it's a tool, right? And that's what I've noticed. And it's a matter of how you use that tool. A lot of people, like for myself, for instance, you get a line of credit, you use that credit to invest into other people, or to other businesses, and it's money that's just sitting there, and it's not making any money unless you're using it. So, right, if you invest in somebody and they're paying you back 10% or 8-9%, rather than you sitting there and having it in a bank making 3 or 4%, or even if you're getting charged 6-7%, you make a couple extra bucks by helping other people out. And you see that a lot in the business community that understand money.
Yes.
When you have people that don't understand how to use the money to make money for them, that's where people get weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how money works. Like you said, what it actually does. It's just, it literally is ones and zeros and how to make, okay, to get this done, I need X, Y, and Z. It's not a lifestyle choice. But I got into a conversation with a friend of mine because we were talking about another business person that's in town. He's like, I don't like him. I'm like, what don't you like about him? I've talked to him a bunch of times. He's super nice, super humble, great to talk to. Oh, he's very arrogant. I'm like, he's very arrogant. I know he's a 7-8 figure person in the area. I'm like, occur to you that he looks at you and how you spend money and how you operate, and he's just not interested in. You said it perfectly, brain rot conversation.
It is, right.
I'm like, don't worry, you're never going to be that in a position. He's like, if I had that kind of money, I wouldn't be like that. I'm like, you will never be in the position to understand what's going through his head. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, I see how you spend money. You don't know what it is. Money is something to buy stuff to you. You have no grasp that it is a tool that you should be using to grow, and whatever is left over after growth, that's what you play with.
Right.
You don't take the I got a big chunk of money. I need to go burn it on whatever. Boats, cars, Vegas trip, whatever. Whatever's left over when the other important stuff is done, okay, I'll play with that. If I get a big chunk of cash, it's immediately going into, 100-year-old bank. The line of credit, it makes infinitely more sense.
Well, now you have an asset you can collateralize.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And that's, normal people don't understand that. But it's such a great tool, man, and you got to understand it from a long-term point of view. Everybody gets so short-sighted with money, they don't understand the value it gets when you think long-term. I'm relatively younger, and everybody that is in this business is older, and they're all getting out of it, so I'm looking at it the long game, right?
Right.
I'm 29 years old, so I figure if I buy all these businesses and I build these things up, in the next 20 years we'll have an empire that I could sit back on and just watch grow.
Yeah.
And then if I put the time in now and I build it and I suffer now, we don't have a nice house or anything by that kind of means, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make to be able to live comfortably later on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I left a well-paying job at the police department to start my own business. I sold my house. I moved into a crappy apartment initially, and then my very good buddy Brad let me move in with him, which has been great for kind of saving money. And I am living on the uber cheap. Half of the whiskey I get and drink and hand to people give to me for, hey, we're going to come out. I got a buddy who comes out a couple weeks ago. We did a second one. He did a commercial for his company where he wanted to shoot his Cybertruck.
Oh, is that his one that's got the wrap on it? I've been seeing driving around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
yeah.
no, different guy.
Oh, okay.
This guy's out of Chicago.
Okay.
This is a second Cybertruck for his company. He brought it. Hey, it gets people talking. I'm like, if you want me to shoot your Cybertruck, that's fine. He's like, what do I owe? I'm like, can't charge you. Property's not zoned. We're not allowed to do that. But he's like, come on, I got to do something. I'm like, I like whiskey and I like cigars.
Yeah, there you go.
And I've got and half of the sniper teams out in Chicago, like Rosemont's team, a couple other teams that are out there. Hey, we're coming out. Check the grill, and I got an old cast iron grill that's sitting out there, and in the bottom of it, there's a bottle of whiskey after those guys leave.
Nice.
It's a great system. I very rarely pay for alcohol.
Let me tell you, man, mechanics. If you meet a mechanic that doesn't drink beer, they're not a real mechanic. I'll tell you that much. The amount of payments we get with freaking cases of beer, I'm not gonna be able to sustain business. I tell you, our fridge is overflowing. We've got a big ass shelf underneath. The shelf is starting to overflow. We get so much beer. So pretty much every Friday we got to just kick back and have a couple of beers amongst all of us. And I tell you what, man, it's a great way to keep a customer relation
Yeah.
to where it's not so much customer and business, but it becomes more of a friendship.
Yes.
You know, when they come out, they bring you a case of beer, and you're like, why don't you stick around? Why don't you have some beer with us? And you talk aviation, you swap stories and stuff like that. You know, you get this bond where they feel comfortable with you. And then it's like I said, you know, they trust you with their life, and now they feel even more comfortable with you, and they see you as a friend. And sometimes, you know, dude, I get Christmas cards from customers. I get Christmas cards and gifts that I never expected to get. You know, all I do is work on the airplane. But these guys, they see us as friends and family. So it's an entirely different service business than probably 90% of the businesses that are out there. You know, it's an incredible community. And, you know, I'm glad the path led me the way it did, because one day I woke up, man, and I was like, man, flying these airplanes just got kind of boring, which is a weird thing to say. But when you're doing it for a living, it's no different than being a bus driver. You're
Right.
driving people around.
You're literally
just
a bus driver.
Yeah, you're in the air, you know, which is cool. You get some cool sights, but you're just driving people around. You're not on your own schedule. You're on somebody else's schedule, and schedules are crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd rather have a 9 to 5 where I could enjoy my weekends. You know,
Or
if you
there's a
wanted-
ferry pilot and you're flying the same lane the whole time.
Oh, dude,
you know,
right? Terrible.
Read some
Gets
books
so
about
boring.
ferry pilots that are worth reading now. Those are some crazy
They are
people.
crazy. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, dude. I've got quite a few customers that have been down that route, and they've got some stories. Repossessions, they've got some stories, man. I tell you.
I think we're right at about an hour.
Yep.
That sound about right?
Yep.
I think this is a good point to kind of take a break from that. Any last things that you would like to throw out there for any budding business people, anybody that might be just good general advice for?
Man, I
small
tell you what,
business?
Matt, the best advice I get to anybody is just network. You know, you see very often now people get kind of shy. They're not very talkative. Everybody's virtual. You know, everybody's talking through text messaging. Go out and talk to
Yep.
people. When you're looking to get into a career path, go talk to people that are in that career. Get a vibe on what it's like. Get some information. Get some resources. Network with these people. Because like we talked about, when you meet somebody that's in the business and is at least aspiring to be in the business, those people enjoy talking to them, and they're always willing to help. And that's what I found is that the most humble people I met and helped me to get where I'm at is just a matter of walking up to them and talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're friendly enough to give them the time of the day and listen to their stories and acknowledge that they're a person, you know, a lot of these people, they'll give you the shirt off their back. So I would say, you know, don't be intimidated. Go out, go network, go talk to people, get some experience in, man. Nowadays, experience is worth way more than what you can learn in college. You know, like I said in the very beginning of this, the amount that I learned being hands-on, going to school, being in the military, tailored me to be very desirable by companies because it wasn't just knowledge that I learned in school.
Right.
You know, I had practical experience. It goes for any career field. You know, go out and just help out. You know, you don't have to expect a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come. Money always comes, man.
Yep.
If you're motivated and you're passionate about what you want to do, the money will come. You just got to get into the game. You know, get the experience in, go out, have some fun with it. You know, aviation is a blast. It's a great community, great place to be. Everybody finds it cool. There's nobody out there who says, screw airplanes, right? Everybody thinks it's cool.
I'd rather take a train.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
You're in the wrong town to make that statement. I'm just going to throw that out there for
yeah,
posterity.
exactly, right? And, you know, you find something that you're passionate about and you enjoy. And, you know, like the saying goes, you never work a day in your life. You do what you enjoy.
Yep.
And it's true, man. You know, you're going to put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get the crap beat out of you. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. But at the end of it all, when you look back, you got memories, you got experience, you got wisdom, and you think, you know, it wasn't that bad. It was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I say. You know, where I got to where I'm at, it's just like everything kind of fell in my lap because it was the route I was supposed to take. It was a path I was supposed to take, and I am sitting here because this is where I'm supposed to be. And the good and the bad, man, I knew through all the bad times, the hard times, that it's just making me into the person that I need to be to get to the next level of my life. So all those hardships, all those bad things that happen to you, they're not happening to you because you're bad luck. It's just turning you into the human you need to be to get past that and go on to the next opportunity. So, you know, that's my piece, man. take it or leave it. But that's where I've been in my life, and that's how I see how I got to where I'm at today. And hopefully, people could learn a thing or two from this.
Here's hoping. That's the whole purpose of this podcast originally, was to kind of get people to open up, talk about businesses, how they got started, the things they need to look forward to, realizing that failure is okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And realizing that failure is
Yep.
okay. Like you said, you wanted to be a pilot. That did not work out.
Right.
However, much better circumstances were right down just being able to go out there, fail at something else, or have something just not work out. Not necessarily fail, because that wasn't the situation with you, obviously. But trying something, and it could be a failure for you, but you might realize that failure leads you to what you're actually good at, or finding out what actually is in demand in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need somebody else making, another 4 gajillion widgets of whatever,
Right.
But you might find out this actually is in demand. This actually is needed. Aviation maintenance is massively in demand.
Massively.
Massively.
You just got to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Some people get so fixated on the goal at the end of it, but enjoy the journey. Good and the bad, I always look back at it, and I'm like, that sucked, but it's something I'm always going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these experiences I look back on, and I'm like, I don't remember doing that. It's because it was easy. It wasn't a hardship.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things I had to fight through, man, I remember it vividly.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're a lot of fun.
Exactly. Maybe not at the time, but when you look back on it, you're like, that was a blast.
And you go, you know what? I miss going through that and struggling through it and figuring it out, especially on the back end when you go, it worked.
Right?
It worked. Yeah.
That's where we're at with our businesses. It's, we talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
With us, it's like starting over again.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're just continuing on what we have already done, because it's just Dana and I, it's like a whole new experience. Because now it's like, wait, we can do that now? Sweet.
Well, and it's no excuse.
Exactly.
Now it comes down to you. 100%.
Yeah, right,
Mm-hmm.
There's
right.
no one else you
right.
can blame it on.
Yep. Any
Yep.
new updates? Anything else you want to, words of wisdom, things for the business, commentary?
No, not that I can think of.
Well, I would say if you guys need anything made apparel-wise or branding-wise, you guys are a great place to go to.
Thank you.
I go local,
Thank you.
and Dana helps me out. She knocks the stuff out in a reasonable time. I don't ask price. I don't ask timeline. I tell her what I need, and when I get it, I get it. So you guys are always busy. I understand that. But, man, does it come out great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everybody I hand this stuff out to, they all say they love it. It's incredible quality.
Nice. That's one thing we've done. We've really focused on not necessarily going with the most expensive brand, but kind of middle of the road as like our go-to, because nobody wants a boxy, scratchy, icky
Oh, of
T-shirt.
course.
Even if it is a giveaway, it's still your
Exactly.
brand that's
Right.
going out there.
I don't want somebody throwing away one of my shirts because
Right.
they don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
every time they think about my company, they're like, yeah, that piece of shit shirt.
Yep.
Yeah, how good are you guys doing? You got me the crappy one.
That damn tag is itchy as hell.
Yeah. No, Dana's put a lot of thought into her product offerings, and I kind of just let her do her thing. She's the expert, and I'm just behind the scenes. When I'm there, people are like, "Oh, you're the husband." Yes, I am.
Yeah. Well, my fiance, she's younger than me. She's 26 now, and she had a business before I did. And everybody, they always tell me, they're like, "Oh, are you proud of him for starting this business?" I'm like, "She had one first. I did this from her. She told me to do this, And it's funny because you're starting to see a lot of women-owned businesses, and they're coming out and they're taking the world by storm. Dude.
Yep.
There's so many great opportunities money-wise for women-owned businesses.
Yep.
If you know where to look, they're out there. And
Yep.
yeah, I wish them all the best.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This episode was brought to you by AP Massage Therapy.
Hey, you remembered this week.
I did. She's sponsoring this wonderful episode. So if anybody's interested in coming on the show, by all means, send me a message. Get a hold of Shane. We'd love to have you guys.
Nothing's off the table.
Very little is off the table. And frankly, I don't know if we actually have standards.
I don't think so.
Or
Look at
rules.
us.
Rules, I should say, not
Yeah,
standards.
standards,
We have
rules.
standards to some degrees here.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Make sure you're liking the post, liking the videos, sharing them as well. Tell your friends about them. If you know small business that are budding, people that want to get into small businesses, send them our way. Have them follow the videos. We're up to episode This is 7?
7?
I think this is 7
7.
for us. We've gotten to talk to some great people. As we get better as interviewers, you're going to get more information and better information.
Matt's let me talk more.
Not by choice. His wife bribed me. God bless Dana. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.